Welcome to the American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants podcast. I am your host, Heidy De La Cruz, and I am on the mission to change the narrative of immigration, one immigrant story at a time. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants podcast. I am your host, Heidy De La Cruz. And today I have Miss Anna with us, and she is the author of Property of the Revolution, which is her memoir. And I am so excited to get to talk to her about her journey coming to the United States from Cuba and her book. Thank you, Anna, for being here today, for taking the time to share your story and to share about your book. And yeah, just thank you so much.
Yeah.
If you could just introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and
Sure.
then yeah.
I think that I should be thanking you for the opportunity and also for just doing this work, especially today,
Yeah.
which is so important to humanize the immigrant experience. Um, my name is Anna Hebra Flaster. I'm here because I've written a book about my memories and our experience of leaving Cuba as a child very abruptly, almost overnight, and the shock of all of that, and landing within a week or so in New Hampshire in
Yeah.
1967, in a very snowy New Hampshire. And the story is about all those challenges and all the lessons that came from that, and especially the multi-generational household that I
Yes.
grew up in, and that I think probably being Dominican, you're very familiar with,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
it's something that most Americans who are born here and more American,
Mm-hmm.
or traditionally American, are either fascinated by or horrified by, because
Yeah.
privacy is so important in American culture, and in our cultures, it's
Mm-mm. It doesn't exist.
it
What is
doesn't.
what is privacy?
What is privacy? Like,
Yeah.
whatever, get over it. We're all in this
Mm-hmm.
house together.
Yeah.
So it's written, I'm 63. It's written, it's a very different book than it would have been had I written it when I had intended to write it. I began my writing career
Mm.
about 25 years ago, and I had planned to start writing back then, but I'm glad I didn't. I think I have a view of the experience that's more nuanced and more comprehensive and wise, I'd like to think.
Yeah.
And I hope that people who read it, especially immigrants who read it, will feel less alone and will have a sense of what's coming.
Mm.
Because one of the things that I tell interviewers is that this thing doesn't end. This experience of refugeedom does not end. And
Wow.
that there is a difference, right, between an immigrant
Mm-hmm.
who generally chooses. It's
Yep.
hard. They have a lot of challenge ahead of them, who chooses to go, and then the one that doesn't. And
Yep.
the refugee generally is coming very abruptly against his or her will, wishing that she didn't have to leave.
Yeah.
That that experience of having had a world taken from you is forever. It just
Yeah.
doesn't go away, and it shapes how you look at the world, and it shapes who you become, because you become a different person. You're really almost giving birth to a new self.
Mm-hmm.
You have to work out what identity that's gonna mean,
Yeah.
how you're gonna balance 2 cultures. It's
Yes.
all part of the immigrant experience. I think the added element is that abrupt uprooting. Destierro in
Mhm.
Spanish is to be
Mm.
uprooted, to have the land taken away from you. So a lot of the book is about that and how that doesn't go away, even though, you look at me today and I look pretty much American, and
Yeah.
I speak flawless English, I hope.
Yes, you do. Yes.
Uh, um, but and it's been fascinating to me wherever I go, there's always an immigrant in the group, right? And they wanna come
Mm-hmm.
over and tell me their story, and we
Oh,
compare notes, and especially young people.
yeah.
So when I've talked about my abuela, my relationship with my abuela,
Oh my
I'll
gosh.
get Indian students coming up, or students from mostly Latin America and
Mm.
some of Asia, saying, "My abuela, my whatever the name for grandmother is, did the same thing, and
Yeah.
she lived with us, and she took care of us when our parents were working." So,
Mhm. Yeah. So
yeah, and so, I grew up in New Hampshire. I studied at Smith College in Massachusetts, and I made my first career in Boston as a software consultant, and then began writing after, I was married and had 2 children, and, since I was staying at home and caring for them, I was able to think about writing, which I'd always loved.
mhm.
Uh, then began writing for NPR, commentaries and essays and freelance journalism.
Yeah.
And I've had the luck of getting things published in some, national, um, media like the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times. And so I've been very lucky with that and happy about the work and happy to bring attention to what's going on in Cuba too.
Yes, for sure. I've read a few I wanna say, yeah, a few different books about, Cuba, like, different experiences, and it was just like, oh my gosh, the story some of the stories were the same, just told a little bit different, so it was like, okay, so that happened, and so it was just kinda like the immigrant experience, and in one of the books that I had read, the dad was really struggling with them coming to the US, and he kinda didn't want to m pretty much talk like if he was going back, right? Like, "Oh, we're just gonna be here for a few months, everything like, until things settled, and then
Yeah.
we'll come back." So, like, he never wanted to make, like, permanent decisions because in his mind, they were gonna go back. And so, yeah, that book, like, they was struggling with that, and, yeah, like I was telling you before we were recording that I was reading your book with, Shadows of Tehran, which is another book, about an immigrant, from Iran, and I was just so it was so surprising and just so eye-opening to read the parallels between what was going on in Cuba and what was going on in Iran at that time, and, also just, like, as I was reading your book, like, I would share with my husband as well, like, "Oh my gosh, this is what the Cuban government did, and this is what they went through," and stuff, and it was just, like, mind-blowing to me as to, like, the suffering and just everything that the Cuban people have gone through and that the government has done, but
Well,
okay.
thank you for recognizing that, Heidi, because,
Yeah.
there's this stereotype that I run into. I don't know if you've heard it of the Cuban American being this wealthy person or from a wealthy family in Cuba who lost their lands and their riches. And then today is just they have a chip on their shoulder and all they want is to get their property back. And that's why they speak badly
Mm,
about the regime. And as a result, our voices are sometimes blocked.
yeah.
Happens in the Northeast a lot because there are a lot of friends of the revolution in the Northeast. They still look
Mm,
at the revolution as this wonderful thing. One of the successful things the revolution has done is generate this propaganda that cements that image of the Cuban American in a
yeah,
lot of minds.
yeah,
And what that does is it takes our voice.
yeah.
We're the ones with skin in the game. We're the ones who still have family there who know firsthand what's going on and what's been.
Mhm, mhm.
But so I'm glad that you recognize the suffering and the challenge, and
Yeah.
uh, whether you were wealthy, middle class, or working class like us, to have your property taken,
Mhm,
have everything you've saved for, and to lose your voice, and to have to live for politics, and
mhm.
live to prove your loyalty to a political party overnight almost.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's not what the Cuban people wanted. They thought they
Mhm.
were getting, with the revolution, a return to democracy.
I was gonna say that, like, I loved the level of detailed in your book about and then you also shared, like, your mom's experience and then
Yeah.
your dad as well, and, your tia as well, and
Yes.
how she was for, the revolution at first until she finally, had to realize herself what was actually going on, and So
You really
again,
did read the book.
I did.
You really
I
did.
did, I did. And no, there's just again with this podcast, and I've said this multiple times, it's like I am learning so much history through people's stories. Because again,
Yeah.
this is, your lived experience, your mom's lived experience, your tia's lived experience, your dad's. And yeah, like I'm just learning so much history, and I really, really appreciated the level of detail that you went into. I'm sure it was hard for your family to recount, what they went through and things like that, but it's just it's just so powerful for people to read and to know people's experience, what actually happened and things like that. And like you said, like get their voice back, like cuz
Yeah. And that was a big part of the goal of the book is to give voice to that generation. The generation
yes.
really gave up everything to save us, because I was only 6.
Mhm.
Um, tell their stories and show the complexities in their
Yes.
stories. People who, like my mother, had risked her life for the revolution, ended up quickly
Mhm.
recognizing it was the opposite of what had been promised, and she wasn't alone.
Yeah.
There were a lot of revolutionaries who were executed or were imprisoned and tortured,
Yeah.
and those voices are lost. But at least by telling her story, I show that betrayal. And then my aunt, who had not cared about the revolution, but after the
Mhm.
revolution, she's such a disciplined person that there's something about its militancy
Mhm.
that appeals to her, and she's all in and becomes more revolutionary than my mother or my
Mhm.
father, who was completely apolitical. And I think that I wanted I hope that the history and the politics are seamlessly entwined in the story of the human being going through those
Yes.
things, because I think that's how we really learn, how we really understand the impact of something
Oh, yeah.
as large and colossal a change as a revolution. What did it
Yeah.
do? What did it do to different kinds of people?
Yes. Yes, that is so important. So, um, you guys went from Cuba, briefly were in Miami, and then settled in New Hampshire. So, we know that the majority of Cuban population is in Miami. So, why New Hampshire?
We had fro so once you've got your exit papers and could leave, and that could happen overnight, you were in disarray. And remember, there was no internet, or even phone calls back and forth were really hard. But somehow, um, a family of carpenters from our barrio who had been sponsored by a Baptist church in New
Okay.
Hampshire, because by '67, nobody wanted any more Cubans in Miami, and they were trying to push everybody
Mm,
who came in out. They had ended up in New Hampshire, and they found out through the Cuban grapevine, as twisted as it was, because they would have to have spoken to family at home to know that we had left, and then spoken to other families here to
wow.
kinda to figure out where we were. But they found us. They came and visited us in because after Miami, we went to New York very briefly.
Yeah.
And they found us and said, my father didn't want us to be raised in a city setting, and
Okay.
and they said, "You should come back with us. There are plenty of jobs or factory jobs. You don't need to speak English for them.
Mm.
The people are nice. The schools are good. There's a lot of snow, um, but we're learning how to deal with it." So my father went back, and that's how we learned. He found a house that first weekend
Yeah.
in the well, you know what
Mhm.
happened. There was a landlord who was a foreman at a factory, and he hired everybody in the family.
Yeah.
And he said, "Don't worry about the first and last month's rent. I
Mhm.
got you covered, and don't worry about any of that in your first paycheck. Then you can pay me." That's how good a human being that man was. Ray
Yeah.
Flanders was his name. I try to say his name every time I talk about the book.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So you guys grew up in New Hampshire, factory jobs. My dad immigrated to New York first and moved to Grand Rapids because of factory jobs.
Yep.
He had experienced a traumatic event in New York, and he had a friend in Grand Rapids and was like, "Oh, there's a lot of factory jobs here."
Yeah.
This was in the 90s. So you can come and move in, and that's how we got settled
Yep.
in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And if it wasn't for he told me if it wasn't for his back injury and that the cold was, really messing up his back, he's like, I would probably still be in Grand Rapids. But like he was like, I didn't mind the snow, I didn't mind the
Yeah.
cold.
And the people were nice?
Yeah, yeah, for the most part, yes. My family has experienced their fair share of racism, and that they've told me about. Like, I usually share about how like I always had to like translate for my dad growing up and things like
Yep.
that. And him being a mechanic, I was always going to like junkyards and AutoZone and things like that with him, which I didn't want to go because obviously, as a girl, but I remember one day being like frustrated and was like, why do you make me go? He's like, you know English. And so then he explained to me, he was like, it's not that I don't know English, it's that I can understand them, but they don't try to understand me. And so
Uh,
just to kind of like, avoid that
yeah,
uncomfortableness, I would, and then after that, I was like, it clicked and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry,
yeah.
and things like that. So
It's so great that he told you.
yeah,
Y
yeah, because it's like my dad is not one to, like, really explain it, it's kinda like, just do as I say,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I'm
So, but when
familiar.
Yeah, so when he explained to me, like, it really, like, "Oh, okay, I got it." Like, after that, I didn't complain because I understood what he was going through, and just wanted to help, any way that I could, but obviously, like, before that, like, I'm like, "You know English, why do you need me?"
Yeah,
But yeah.
yeah,
Things like that. So the whole like your whole family like living together, the multi-generational, yes, I could definitely relate.
yeah. There were a lot of people in a little house.
There was one point where it was my dad, my stepmom, her set of parents, because they're still together, and then it was my grandfather on my dad's side, and then me with my daughter. So it was like all of us,
Yeah,
and then I would leave for when I went to work. I would leave my daughter with my stepmom's mom. She would take care of
yeah,
her throughout the day, and
yeah,
with my two siblings. And like when I tell people that, like you said, like you tell Americans, they're like, "What?
yeah.
How could you guys live
And
on?"
why would your stepmom want to take was it your stepmom taking care of the
My
baby or
stepmom's mom.
mom? Exactly.
Yeah.
And 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 so why would they do that? Well, they do that because it's an honor in a
I
way.
mean,
And
she's a she was I mean, she sees my daughter as her great-granddaughter, like, and she sees
yeah,
me as a granddaughter, just,
yeah, yeah,
pretty much my abuela, and so she was, taking care of my daughter, and
yeah.
not just my daughter too, because funny enough, my daughter and my brother are just 2 years apart, so el tío is only 2 years older
Wow.
than the niece,
Oh, wow.
so she would take care of both of them, like, they would just stay at the house while me and my
Yeah,
stepmom went to work, and my daughter learned a lot of Spanish because of that, because la abuela was speaking to her in Spanish, and then once she started school, now she doesn't want to speak Spanish, and I'm like, ah, mija, you need your Spanish,
yeah.
like let's practice, and she's
Keep
like,
keep
no, you know English.
keep on it, keep on it's hard once they get to school to keep it, but, yeah, I mean, in the book, I think you'll remember that when my mother was taking care of my sister's kids,
Yes.
she was living in a retirement community, full of Americans, 'cause there are not too many Latinos even now here,
Mm-hmm.
although there's way more than there used to be. And she was frustrated because everyone kept saying, "But why? Why would you take care of them? Why you shouldn't be taking care of them every day, and, oh my gosh, you're giving up so much." And for my mother, it was an honor,
Yeah.
and it was a privilege and what she wanted to do, and
Mm-hmm.
it's so different, right, Heidi?
Yeah.
I mean,
But
because
yeah, but that's
it's
our culture though. Like we are so family oriented. Like
yeah.
that's just like, yeah, it's just
It's
how
not a
it
it's
is.
not even a sacrifice, I don't think.
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
look at it as it is a sacrifice, but not in the same way, I guess.
Mhm.
And, that's one of the many differences, right? You
Mhm.
talk about culture shock, which
Yeah.
what you talk about,
Yes.
and you're always having to explain,
Oh, yes.
"Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
but you don't understand." You see, we don't care about privacy. We in a very
Yes.
different way. Or independence.
Oh,
Independence.
yes.
Right? Because I talk about that in the book too, like, it's
Mhm.
an insult. I don't know if in the DR it is, but in Cuba, if you start acting too much in your self-interest, people will say, "Oh, tú eres muy independiente." That's a negative.
Yep, in a
Very
bad way.
independent. Alright,
Mhm.
do you guys get that? Do you do that?
Yeah, for sure. Yep,
And
100%.
whereas in the United States, independence is like the keystone of everything.
Mhm.
Like everybody's trying to teach their kid to be independent from day one, like solve your problems and You
Yes.
know, it's
I
a different focus.
For sure, and I loved that you wrote about the struggle that your dad had with you going away for college, because that is not something normal for our culture. Like, you are home until you get married, and,
Yes.
like, in the Dominican Republic, the universities are not like here where you go and sleep and live there.
Yeah.
You just go throughout the day, go to your classes, and then come
Yeah.
back home,
Even
and
now?
s
Even now?
yeah, yeah, and so, like, you sharing that about how your dad struggled with that, I was like, "I understand 100% the
Yeah.
struggle." Yeah.
He would say to me: "Pero, ¿cómo te puedo dejar ir a
Mhm.
una universidad si todavía no estás ni casada? How can I let
Yes.
you go to a university if you're not even married yet?
Mhm.
Duh."
Yeah, 'cause you
And I
stay
was
home
and I
until
was
you get
doing
married.
and I was duh the other way.
Yes. Oh, man, when I was 18, I could not wait to get out of the house. Like,
Yeah.
I was just like, "Oh, let me go." Like, I just
Yeah,
wanna go.
we wanna be that American girl, you know, that American we wanna be our Latina self, but we wanna also be able to be and that's the double, side, the
Mhm.
two-sided, diamond that we were given with
Yeah.
multiple cultures, right?
Yes, for sure. Trying to navigate both too. My
Yeah.
goodness. Tell me about a little bit about, because I know you talk about it or you write about it in the book, but your experience as Smith, because you also did share about how there did come a point where you felt like you didn't belong,
Yeah.
that you should not have been there. So tell me a little bit about that experience for you.
Well, I was very conscious of my working class background, my immigrant background, my not perfectly white background, because when I got to Smith for the first time, people, um, referred to me as of color, like, "You're not white," and I thought, "I'm not? Well, I'm not? Really?"
Yes.
And yeah, you're not. And then who gets to decide, by the way, what you are?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, when I look back at my pictures of that time, because you're probably the same skin tone, right? So you get so dark so fast. And if you're in the sun playing and whatever, you're just browner.
Hmm.
So, yeah, at that time, it if you judge just by skin color, but they were also talking about my immigrant past, because my last name
Mm-hmm.
questions. So I had a little bit of a complex about being poor. I mean, I was on a scholarship and, and, you know, not wanting to reveal my immigrant roots too much or my working class roots too much.
Yeah.
At the same time, I ended up studying economics, and Cuba was the darling of the economics department. And
Mm-hmm.
some of the professors went to Cuba to help with the 5-year economic planning that they did. And so they would come back and they were, to their credit, always upfront at the beginning of the semester and would just tell us, I'm a Marxist or a Marxist Leninist, um,
Wow.
and then proceed to teach whatever the course was. But the bias would come through. And the more that I dug into the major, the more that the Cuba thing kept popping up. And I started to push back against it
Yeah.
because the whole it's still a very liberal, politically liberal culture. And there's nothing it's still true that for many people the Cuban Revolution is this model of if it weren't for the embargo is the excuse,
Mm,
which is so partial and not even in existence, but that it would have been the perfect model for a leftist communist, experiment, but because,
wow.
you know, that's and they a lot of people still believe that. Um, and there's an incident in the book where I actually go to report on a lecture that was the professor was giving incorrect information, and I went to the chair and said that, and he said, "You shouldn't worry." Basically, "You shouldn't worry about it because Smithies are privileged. They've lived with privilege for 22 years of their lives. They can handle a 45-minute lecture that's a little skewed or whatever." He just didn't,
Wow.
and I lost so much respect for him, and it opened my eyes to,
Mhm.
again, the power of ideology and how we close our eyes to facts because
Mhm.
they don't fit the ideological
Yes.
house we've built for ourselves.
Mhm. Oh my goodness, yes. And so, tell us a little bit about your writing career. So you mentioned, this was after you got married, had kids, was able to get published. Did you always know that you were a good writer, or did someone tell you that you should get into writing? Like, how did that come
That's a good
about?
question because I've been thinking about that, or every now and then I've thought about it.
Yeah.
I knew that I was a pretty good writer in 4th grade,
Wow, okay.
because in 4th grade, I can't remember, I just remember, like, being able to write a lot more and a lot more with complexity,
Yeah.
and my teacher, Mrs. Welch, would comment and would say I don't remember many details, but I remember knowing then, like, "Oh, maybe I'm alright at this," and then that happened throughout my school days.
Yeah.
But being an immigrant, I didn't wanna major in English when I got to
Okay.
that expensive school, so I majored in what I thought was practical economics and Spanish literature because I really wanted to be able to speak and write my native language as well as
Yeah.
possible. Um, so I began writing. The trigger for the writing was just before, the Elian Gonzalez incident, and I don't know if you know of that. There was a little boy
Mm-mm.
in 1999, I think, who his mom and some others escaped on a raft.
Oh,
From
you share about this in the book.
Yep, and
Yeah.
he is the only survivor, and he's picked up and taken to Miami to his Miami relatives. The father, at first says, "Take care of him," but then when the authorities in Cuba get a sense of what's going on, can, make it so that he's calling and saying that he wants the child back, and there
Mm.
becomes a tug of war. And so I wrote about it, and it ended up on NPR's, national broadcast of all things considered, so I was very that was the launch, the real launch. I've
Okay.
done some other smaller, journalistic work before that, and, um, and then I did just most of the things that have landed in bigger papers are related to Cuba
Mhm.
and the Cuban American experience, and I love to
Yes.
write. I know you're an author too, and for me, I learn a lot when I write. I learn what I'm thinking, um, and I we talked about this a little before you started recording, but there's a process that happens when you're writing where it is cathartic, especially when there's been trauma,
Mhm.
and as you know from reading the book, I didn't think there'd been a trauma in our family
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
our story was, the tough women in the family, that really ran the family. We won. We beat Castro. We beat communism. No victims here. Forward
Mhm.
march. Then only when my daughter turned my age, the
Yeah.
age I was, did all of that come back. And the writing brought more and more of those memories back.
Yeah.
And I realized eventually, because I didn't want to believe this, there had been a trauma. There
Mhm.
had been a huge loss. And I fought it because I didn't want to feel like a victim. I didn't want to give that to the revolution or to um, someone else. I wanted to own it until my husband finally convinced me,
Mhm.
you can be
Mhm.
both.
Mm.
You can be a victim and a winner.
Yeah.
Um, and that's the truth of it is that nothing is purely one or the other usually.
Yeah. So, how this is a memoir about your story, but also your family story. And how was it like getting those stories from them and in writing this out for you? I mean, I know obviously a lot of memories come back, a lot of and you also mentioned in the book how like, in our culture too, like the psiquiatra, like you don't
Oh,
that's for
yeah.
crazy people, right? Like
Yeah.
where did you go to therapy in the process of writing this to be able to write this? Like, because And that's also why I'm very, very careful with, these stories because it can be traumatic, for some people, and I try to handle it with as much as compassion and empathy as I
Yes.
definitely can. So, how was that recounting these stories and getting them from your family?
Well, first of all, the thing about getting the stories, you're a Latina, we don't shut up, right?
Yes.
So nobody shuts up in the house. So I had stories coming out of my ears. I mean, I was loaded up with stories. It was what I was gonna do with those stories. How
Yes,
I was
yes.
gonna do you can't tell them all.
No.
Figuring that out, what was the story I was trying to tell?
Mm, mhm.
And laser focusing on that aspect of the experience, which was really about home,
Oh, yes.
losing your home
Mhm.
and making it again, losing your home, losing everything, and making it again. How does that look? What does it do to people?
And when you say everything, like, you went into details, like, you guys couldn't bring nothing,
Nothing. And
nothing.
now remember, each phase of Cuban exile
Yes.
is some were at the very beginning able to take things, but when
Mhm,
we came, and
mhm.
most of the Freedom Flight Cubans, which was from 1965 to 1973, I think,
Okay.
um, no, you had to leave everything, including your home. That's my big memory of Cuba, being kicked out of my house, trying to understand why weren't we able to go into our house? What was happening?
Yeah,
There was this guard there. Why was my grandmother crying nonstop? Why did we only have one suitcase with a
yeah,
change of clothes for each of us? What was happening? Um, so so I wanted the home, as you can see, one of the key memories is actually of the physical experience of losing my physical home. But really
mhm.
what happened is we lost a world, and we lost family that is another example of a refugee versus an immigrant. We knew we couldn't go back. We wouldn't
Yes.
we It's not like you come for a better life and then you can go back. You have to save money, but you can go back. There's not an obstacle of a political nature.
Mhm.
And for us, there was no going back, and we didn't know when or if we'd see those people again, and we never saw some of them again, some of our closest relatives.
Oh,
And the impact of that on the older generation, which was raised to honor and love and cherish their elders, and to know that they were going through those really difficult economic crises that followed the revolution, and not be able to help them
yeah.
and not be there to take care of them. They were haunted by that.
Mhm.
So it's really that event and focusing on that. Um,
Yeah.
but then which of those stories that I've picked up along the way, and then as I would write, another story would emerge because I
Mhm.
need a detail. Unfortunately, when I began, I had the 4 adults. My grandmother had passed away by then,
Mm.
and I would have interview sessions with the 4 of them, and my father hated them because all my father likes to do is talk. He doesn't wanna hear other people talk.
Other pe
Well, he's gone now, we lost him last year, but,
Oh, I'm
um,
sorry.
so some of the film of the interviews that I have are of him like this. I don't know if you can see me, like this,
Uh-huh.
like a little schoolboy kept for detention. "How much longer? ¿Hasta cuándo vamos a estar aquí?" And he called them the escuelita. "Estas escuelitas tuyas que tú estás armando aquí, ¿hasta cuándo vamos a tener que hacer eso? Porque a mí no me
Oh.
gusta estar aquí. Yo lo que quiero es poder hablar y whatever."
Mm.
Um, and so through those stories, finally I picked the structure of the book, the stories that really told what I was trying to get at, which was, how did that loss of home impact these people? That sudden, abrupt loss of home. What did they have to go through? And how did they get to that? How did this happen?
Mhm.
Um, as I began to write, so what actually set me on the course to writing, even though I think I've had this book in me all my life, because I
Yeah.
knew, and right, when something big happens in your life, even as a child, you know
Mhm.
that it's a big thing.
Mhm.
And so this was about as big as you could get, because it
Yeah.
affected everybody and all at once.
Yes. Mhm.
And there was an easy beginning before and after. But what happened is, as I said, when my daughter I had become very depressed around the time that my daughter turned the age I'd been. And I went to a psychiatrist, and she helped me figure this out.
Mhm.
And it was hard to figure it out, and I cried a lot, as I wrote,
Mhm.
because I would write and I would remember
Yes.
events that I had buried, because
Mhm.
those events got in the way of the story we told about ourselves.
Mhm.
We were superheroes. Look at us
Mm.
go.
Yeah.
Look what we can do. We can start again. Um, we can, in 3 years, own our own little duplex again. Look at us go. We can go to Niagara Falls for a summer vacation, and we can be together, and we can still be Cuban, and we can have American friends. And oh, but then it turns out, as I'm writing, I remember horrible things that happened,
Mhm.
and horrible hardship, and see the pain, not just that I went through as a clueless 6-year-old, but the adults around me were going through.
Mhm.
It's been really hard for my brother and my 2 male cousins who,
Mm.
I grew up with as primos hermanos,
Mhm. Mhm.
read the book, because they too have had to confront a trauma that they had buried.
Yeah.
I guess this is what you call multi-generational trauma. I think that's
Yes.
the term.
Mhm.
And I thought that was all silly,
Mhm.
you know, and it turns out it's not silly, it's real.
Mhm.
And,
100%.
but, um I don't know that it'll be good for them, because sometimes it is better to button it all up. Some people can just do better that way.
Yeah.
So I have forced them
Mm.
to do this. As my brother says, "I'm on chapter whatever." Let me tell you, you're kicking my ass. You're kicking
Oh,
my
man, I bet. Oh my goodness. That just reminds me of, my mom passed away in 2016, and so I've
Yeah.
been doing, just trauma therapy with things from young age and previous relationship. And unfortunately, I don't talk to my mom's side of the family, and so, like, when my therapist wants me to, like, get answers, I'm like, the only person I can ask is my father, who was married to my mom. But then it's like sometimes I'm like, I don't wanna trigger him or,
Yes.
bring back, painful
Yes.
memories, and I'm just like, so it's kinda, like, hard because it's like I
Yeah.
need to process this, but then I only have one person to go to right now, and it's hard, so I can definitely understand, like,
Yeah,
I
and when I was doing the Escuelita interviews,
Mhm.
I could see, like, sometimes the 4 of them would get into a conversation, and I could see things resurfacing in them.
Yeah.
One one day, my father they were talking about what Cuba had been like before the revolution. My aunt, when I asked her that, she said, "Like this. It was like this."
Mm.
We had I was a working class person, but I went to the university. Um, we had affordable health insurance. There was public transportation. People went on vacations. People traveled all over the world,
Wow.
or they went. Many Cubans worked in the United States, and then sometimes came back for health care on the island because the health care was
It
so
was
good.
better. Mhm.
And the revolution has co-opted that, and says that they're a world power at that. But they inherited an amazing system, and it's now been driven into the ground. But anyway, when they were talking, I could see my father was always someone who looks back and at a longingly. My mother only
Mm.
looked ahead. She
Mhm.
would look back, but only mostly for lessons.
Mm.
She would tell me a story, and then she would draw the lesson she had taken from it. My father was more about that world where he would, steal cod fritters from the Chinese vendor in the alley, or all that picaro stuff, because he was a
Mhm.
barrio kid.
Mhm. Mhm.
And, um, and I remember my father saying, as they were talking about the old days, saying, "What I would give to go back and just be at that park one more time, and be."
Mm.
And my aunt said, she was quiet, and she said, "It doesn't exist."
Mm,
That doesn't exist. And there was silence in the room
yeah.
because in a way, he thinks it still does exist because he can go
Mhm.
back to it, he can resurrect it. Because that's the power of memory, and when you have a great storyteller like
Yeah.
he was rebuilding this world with his
Yeah.
stories, and then to just have it be said out loud, it doesn't exist.
Kinda like that wave of grief just
Yeah,
took over. Yeah.
yeah. So I
Wow.
don't know if I answered your question, Heidi, and I don't know if I remember your question.
No, but that I figured it was it's a process.
Yeah,
Again, just everything you guys went through as a family and then to recount it years later and then now you're triggering family members who have to, deal
I
with
know.
their stuff too, but honestly, like it's worth telling and it's powerful. Also just for those who aren't Cuban who will read your book to understand what you guys went through, to understand what happened to your family. And again, like we were talking before, just like how much, yeah, just understanding those details of like how it affected your family and things like that. Cause again, there's a lot of stuff that you can, read online or hear in the news and things like that, but when you are listening to someone's story who went through it, you are putting yourself in their shoes
Yeah,
and trying to view things from their perspective. So, like, in my mind, I mean, obviously, I was picturing a lot of Dominican Republic, but I'm sure there's a lot of similarities, like
yeah,
the houses and stuff. But it's just
yeah.
like, man, like I can't imagine as a 6 year
And
old like losing everything. Like,
imagine overnight,
yeah,
not being
yeah,
able to go back and then seeing your parents wanting to go back or thinking about this and how could it have been stolen from us? Why was the whole country asleep at the wheel?
yeah.
All of that.
And your family moving, well, fleeing. Did Was there ever talks about like going, like the hopes of going back?
No.
No, they were just settled
Well,
on.
I think, you started this conversation talking about the other book that you
Mhm,
read
mhm.
where there was a father struggling because he wanted to go
Yes.
back to Cuba. I thought he would be going back to Cuba.
Yes.
And the initial wave of Cuban exiles thought there would be an end.
Mhm.
And we're sure the Bay of Pigs was gonna, mean the toppling of the revolution and life would go back to normal.
Yeah.
But my mother, by 1967, had decided that if we're gone, we're gone. We're not going back.
Wow.
This is our home. And
Okay.
she told my father that, and she didn't wanna stay in Miami for that reason because she felt that Miami was going to be too centered on the past. It's so
Mm.
wise in some ways.
So intentional too.
Yes, right, intentional is a word, because there are really great things that come from growing up in a Cuban American community, really
Yeah.
wonderful things of
Mhm.
pride, um, the connections to your people, all of that is so valuable, but there's also a cost to it
Mhm.
because, um, especially for the older generation, they kinda whip each other up in this
Mhm.
conversation about the past, and it's never really gone. So in
Mm.
New Hampshire, we could create our little island of Cubanness inside our home, but it was it was an intentional creation, and it was what we wanted, and it was more or less controllable, and we didn't
Yeah.
have to focus on the crazy politics or going back.
Yeah.
Um, so, and I think the New Hampshire they were so sure that they weren't going back, when they got here, it just didn't they just never thought that I think by
It
then
was just move
yeah,
forward,
they understood even though my father really continued to look backward. And remember in 1967, 68, this country was going through a social revolution itself, right? With it, anti-war protests, the race riots, the assassinations of King and
the
our
civil rights movements and
civil
stuff.
rights movement.
Mhm.
But The hippie pot smoking, whatever.
Oh,
And
the
they thought,
60s were busy.
yeah, they thought there was going to be a revolution here because a lot of the '60s politics was, well, Cuba featured in it.
Mhm,
That was one of the times that Cuba and Fidel and Che Guevara became so romantic to that generation. They sort of were emblems of what they thought their generation could do. And, no, um, and my mother and my aunt would say to each other to calm each other down when they were worried about a revolution coming here, a communist
mhm,
revolution coming here. They'd say,
mhm,
"Well,
mhm.
look how close to the New Hampshire border we are. I mean, the Canadian border we are. Something happens here, we just drive 2 hours and we're in Canada."
In Canada.
And, the saying was, "Keep the Studebaker's gas tank full,"
Mm,
because, they were ready, and that's what happens when you go through something like this, you're always ready.
yeah, yeah.
You know
Wow.
how delicate the balance is.
Mhm, for
But I
sure.
hope you got humorous moments out of the story
So
too,
I
because
was gonna
we were
say,
talking
cause
about the heavy stuff.
I know, cause your dad played baseball, and I remember reading this one part where he was talking about, a Yankee, player,
Yeah.
and my husband is a diehard Yankee fan. And so I tested him. I was like, "Do you know who this player is?" And so I can't even remember the name right now, but I told him the
Felipe
name.
Alum, Felipe Alum.
Yes, and my husband knew who he was, what he was famous for, and then I was like, "Man, you really are a Yankee fan." So
Yeah,
then I tell him about the part of the book that I was reading and how your dad also played baseball, and he thought that was really cool. So
yeah.
definitely, yeah, there were definitely, and there was a lot of things that I could relate to, as well, like we had talked about a little bit before we started recording, but, um, that is really cool how you were so close to your grandma,
Mhm.
that is such a privilege, 'cause not a lot of people have that, and just to be able to be so close to her, but then I also know that it was a very, very big loss, for you, and, I could relate because I lived with my grandma for a little bit too. I mean, now she lives 15 minutes away, but I'd be like, I tell her, I was like, "I need to come over more and have, like, cafecitos con abuela," and then just, like, sit
Yeah,
and talk,
yeah. My
things like
grandmother,
that, so
we were remembering speaking of funny stories, this didn't make the book because, you've gotta keep it laser focused, like I said.
mhm,
But she
mhm.
had, so there were split sessions at the high school. My aunt, as you know, became a Spanish teacher because she managed to get her diploma out of the country.
I told my husband about that, I was like, "That
In a
is crazy."
in a sneaky way, we're not gonna
Yes.
give it away.
No, no.
But she was hired. She could barely speak English, but she was teaching Spanish, and one of the students at the high school was a basketball player who was failing. The coach made him go for tutoring at our house where we were all living in one
Mhm,
house,
mhm.
and it was split sessions. So she said to go after school, and he showed up after his session got out at noon. But my aunt wasn't there, and nobody was
Yeah.
there, only my grandmother and my little brother, and my grandmother, not a word of English. So she sees this guy carrying something, and she figures he's the gas man to read the meter. So she tells him to come in, and she shows him the basement, and he goes down into the basement, and 3 hours later, we come home from school, and she's a wreck. The gas man is dead in the basement. And and she's like, Somebody one of you guys has to go down." And we're like, I'm gonna go down and find the dead gas man down there." And finally, my cousin Alberto, who was always up for anything, was like, I'll go." And he found the guy sitting on the washing machine, a light bulb swinging, in the dark, and he's like, What are you doing here?" He goes, I she told me to come down. I thought it was a Spanish custom or something that this is just what you had to do." So, you can see now why he might need some tutoring. But and then we brought him back up, and my grandma's like, "Ay, chico, I'm so sorry."
Oh my god, that is hilarious. Oh my goodness. Oh, man, that is so funny. Well,
But that, that's how clueless,
yeah,
you are. Y
yeah.
um, oh, here's another one. Oh, this one was in the book. How about when it's snowing? And first of all, everybody thought we were gonna die of pneumonia because that's what
Oh, yes.
because you're from
Yes.
the Caribbean, you figure
Mhm,
you're gonna die.
mhm,
And, how could anybody we didn't care, but the
mhm,
adults thought for sure people are gonna drop dead from pneumonia. Um, and the whole snow thing, everything was just overwhelming, and they wanted us to play outside, so when after it would snow, and it snowed bucket loads
mhm,
they would go out tired from their factory shifts and shovel out the backyard, right? So that we had a place to play. And then eventually they figured out that the Americanitos were playing on top of the snow
mhm.
and nobody was shoveling out their yards.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't have to shovel out
Oh my
the yard.
goodness, yeah. Okay, so remind me, because I might be getting the 2 books confused. Did you write about the smell of food on your clothes? Was that you?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I definitely could relate to that because, oh man, we used to go to my grandma's house literally every day. And so, the cook, especially in the winter, you had to keep the windows closed and everything, so the house always smelled like food. And my locker, because of my winter coat, was always in there in the backpack. As soon as you open it, you just slap
Yep.
you in the face, the
El
smell of food.
sofrito,
Oh,
right?
yes.
Garlic, onion, green pepper. Is that how you guys cook too?
Mhm, mhm.
The
Yes,
basics of almost everything? Yeah,
yes.
and you can't because our culture, our food is meant to be cooked with the windows wide open, not
Yeah.
with central heating and everything locked up
Mhm.
airtight. So, of course,
Yeah.
we reeked,
Mhm.
and
Always. My backpack, my winter coat, yeah, it's just always actually, even my food and my hair or my clothes and my hair too is
yeah,
just
yeah,
always with that smell.
yeah.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yep.
it smells great in the air when you're eating, but maybe not so much in the
The
coat.
day after,
Yeah.
yeah. Exactly, oh my goodness. Anna, oh my god, I feel like I could talk to you for hours, but I
Well, me
definitely
too.
wanna respect your time, but tell me, what does the American dream mean to you?
It means to be free, to live in a place where you're free to imagine and to work toward a dream, whatever that dream is, and that no political party, no ideology is going to stand in your way um, as long as you're peaceful and you follow the basic rules. But liberty is something we've never in our family taken for granted, having lost
Mm,
it. So for
yeah.
me, the American dream is all about liberty of all kinds.
Mm,
Um,
beautiful. And where can people get your book?
well, they can get it, obviously on Amazon, all, major online book retailers.
Okay.
Simon& and Schuster's the distributor, so it's on their page as well. It's on, Barnes& and Noble, all those places, and your local bookstore maybe has it. If it doesn't, you can have the bookseller order it through the
Okay.
Simon catalog. Um, but here's a request that I always forget to make in these interviews. If you do read it, I hope you like it, and if you do, I would love for you to leave a rating.
Oh, okay.
A
Yes, I
review.
will do
Those are
that.
really important, and they
Okay.
help other readers find the book.
Yes.
And even when people think they're gonna rate or review, and by review, it could be just and hopefully it's this, "I loved the book," and the number of stars rather than,
Stars.
"I hated the book." Um, that's all you need to do, a line or 2 and the
Yeah.
number of stars that you would give it. But, people forget or they're even, intimidated by the concept of having to write something about a book.
Mhm.
But you do have a username on those places, so you don't have to take ownership,
There you go.
full
Yeah.
ownership of whatever you write, but hopefully it's truthful. I would want it to be truthful and I would hope that it's positive, but those reviews really matter, and for
Yeah.
all authors, they matter. It's good to be able to say something about the books that you love and why.
Yeah. And how can people connect with you?
I am on, mostly on Facebook. I have a public, profile. I also have a book, an author, it's my name, Ana Hebra Flaster, author, and Ana Hebra Flaster, personal. Um, on Instagram, my name all run together, Ana Hebra Flaster, Twitter, um and, oh, most important is Cuba Curious, which is my newsletter on Substack, which just
Yes.
turned 1 last. Thank you.
Congratulations.
And in it, I try to give voice to the not often reported story of real Cuba, what
Mm,
average Cubans are going through,
okay.
what the human rights abuses look like by the regime.
Mm,
First person account stories of things that are happening that just don't make the newspaper here.
yeah.
Um, they don't seem to be covered, and they're very important, I think,
Yeah.
because it's still, as we talked about, still being looked at as a model, like a wonderful regime
Yeah.
or government that's only uh, impeded by American policy.
Yeah.
No Cuban on the island believes that.
Yeah.
Not even the dictators running it believe
I
that.
I will include your links in the show notes and show description, so it'll be
Yeah,
easy access for the
perfect. Yeah, the
listeners.
Cuba Curious would be really great.
Yes, I will definitely. I just subscribe. I haven't read any yet, but I subscribe and I will
Oh,
definitely take a look at
thank
those.
you, thank you. Please
Yes.
pass them around. I mean, I
Mhm.
get the people who are on there really seem to be like, "Why don't we know this? Why is this not
Mhm.
what we're hearing?" Um,
It's intentional.
yeah, and you know what I'm gonna be doing soon? I just got my trademark, information today on Ponte Guapa. I don't know if you guys say this in DR. Ponte Guapa in Cuba, I mean, si alguien te dice Ponte Guapa, it's get tough.
Get tough.
That was my mother's, you know,
Mm.
all the problems yeah, Ponte Guapa, you can do it. So Ponte Guapa, I'm gonna make some mugs, some caps. I don't
Nice.
Yeah. Right,
Congratulations.
and you know what? I think it would be great to walk around and with something that's saying and telling people, "Make yourself brave. You can make
Yeah,
yourself brave."
for sure. Oh, I love that for you. That
Yeah.
is so
So oh, yeah, my
cool.
website, I forgot to tell you about my website,
Yeah.
anacubana.com. That's probably where I'll sell.
Okay. Perfect.
You
Well,
probably
I'll include all of that in the show notes and so description, so it'll be easier for the listeners, quick and click and follow you and support and get the book and all of that great
That's
stuff.
awesome.
Oh my
Thank
goodness, Anna. I feel like again we could talk for hours. I
you.
appreciate this conversation. How honest, raw you are with with this interview, but then also in the book, such a powerful book. So yes, everyone, please, please, please go purchase, read it, and also just let us know your thoughts. Leave a review for
Yes.
Anna. And are you doing a book tour by any chance?
Yes. Well, I
Oh,
mean, I think I'll be doing it's kinda patchy now, but
oh, okay.
yeah, I went to Miami recently. I've been mostly in New Hampshire and Massachusetts.
Actually, I did see that. I was like, I wonder if she's getting coming close to Central Florida. But when you're gonna be in Miami, I believe we're not gonna. I think we're going on a trip because you're gonna be in Coral Gables, right? I think that's
No,
what I saw.
I already was. It was,
Oh, that's what it was. Okay,
a
it had
week
already
ago or 2
passed.
weeks ago, and I did an interview with, um, Ismael Llano, who, is an anchor a host of, Pero Let Me Tell You, right?
Mm.
Pero Let Me Tell You. We had a lot of fun, and I did a talk at, Books and Books in Coral Gables.
Yes.
Beautiful bookstore, beautiful staff, and I was so fortunate to be interviewed by Mirta Ojido, who is I've had a author crush on her for a long time.
Awesome. Yes. I was like, oh, I wonder if she's gonna come close to Central Florida, but that's what
Well,
it was. Oh,
I
you
am.
are?
Yeah, I just don't know exactly where. Um,
Okay.
I would like to, maybe go through church groups or, uh,
Mm.
synagogues. I have the speaking engagement tomorrow at a synagogue. I think there's a lot of spirituality in the book and a lot of spirituality in the immigrant
Yes.
experience that
Yes.
can strengthen
Yes.
you, and
Yeah.
I think I think those groups would be, important and would potential readers of the book. So
Yeah.
far, so good anyway, that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, no, it definitely yeah, you guys talk about, the saint and, the rosary and yeah, and then also marrying your husband and how that was, so, yeah, I don't wanna give too much away of the book, go read it, but
Yep.
yes, you definitely do, touch on that in the book, so but Anna, thank you so much for
Thank
this,
you, Heidi. Many
been
blessings to you
great.
and your family. Thank you for
Thank
reading. Thank you for
oh,
being so smart about it and asking great
oh,
questions.
thank you.
Um, let's stay in touch, I
We
hope.
will, yeah.
Thank you for listening to Mommy Podcast.